If safe feels heavy, it isn't actually safe. It's because it's shining a light on the things that the leaders haven't actually fixed yet. Hi guys, it's Dave here. Welcome back to Project Management 101. It's so great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're covering SAFE, the Scaled Agile Framework, but in a nutshell. Before we get started, if you get some value out of today's lesson, why don't you hit the like button? It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss more great free content covering project program and delivery management. So, what is SAFE? SAFE, as I mentioned earlier, is the Scaled Agile Framework, and it's really a framework that allows many teams to move in the same direction without massive amounts of chaos. Or so that's the theory. SAFE really is a coordination system. It's not a religion and it's not a silver bullet. It's there to provide a guardrail to allow teams to work together in unison to deliver a shared outcome across a larger scale, more complex organisational structure. And for me, SAFE exists because organisations are already complex. SAFE helps to make that visible and allows the organisations to make changes within their control structures and their kind of ways of working to really make that more simple and help the teams to thrive in a world of agility. For me, some of the core challenges SAFE tries to resolve is too many teams, too many dependencies, and too many decisions that end up being stuck in the air. Ultimately, leadership want a level of predictability and teams want a level of autonomy, and SAFE tries to give everything to everyone. At its core, the heartbeat of SAFE is the team, and the way that shows up in the Scaled Agile Framework is the release train. This is made up of multiple Scrum teams all delivering together but governed by the release train. A great way to think of this is if you think of the Agile release train as the team of teams, like the scrum of scrums when you're doing scaled scrum. Within the release train, everybody plans together, commits together, and ultimately delivers together. And within the cycle of SAFE, there's an event called PI planning. And this is really the festival where all of the team come together, get excited about the next quarter's delivery ahead, and get aligned on the dependencies on the work so they deliver together. In terms of SAFE, there's 3 levels of complexity, and if you think of essential SAFE as the core agile release trains working together, a single agile release train delivering an outcome, that's really where most organisations end up. And that's really essential core SAFE. When it starts to get more complex, you may find another layer where multiple agile release trains are working in parallel to deliver a shared outcome or multiple outcomes that deliver towards the same overall goal, and that would be called the solution train. And on top of those 2 layers, you can bolt the portfolio layer. That's where strategy, money, and decision priorities go to live. And then that helps the agile release trains to carve out a clear path over the next 12, 6, 18 months moving forwards. In terms of the roles, when we think about the essential SAFE layer, there's only 3 roles that really matter. That's the release train engineer, and they're the coordinator, the conductor if you like. They're helping to remove blockers at scale, but coordinate all of the multiple teams that are delivering within the agile release train. The next role is product management. So similar to Scrum, in SAFE, the product management organisation own the value of the priorities and they own the value that we're aiming to deliver, and they help alongside the release train engineer to ensure the squads and the teams are fed the right work in the right priority order to help meet that customer aim, and we can recognise it as value and we can demonstrate that outwards and upwards. And the final of the 3 most important roles within the Agile release train is the system architect. These individuals are accountable for making sure that we've got the right technological approach to work, documentation, and they work alongside with the product management team to support the flow of work into the squads before we get to the next PI planning event. When it comes to the most important ceremonies within SAFE, there's three that I would highlight. The first one, and we've already touched on it, is PI planning. This is a quarterly event where all of the teams, the product managers, and the delivery leaders all come together and the squads undertake a planning event. It normally takes a couple of days. Within that, they have the ability to collaborate and coordinate across multiple Scrum teams in a really dynamic environment to drive much better, much more synergy within planning, and ultimately for everybody to get to their final plan playback within the ceremony and make a shared commitment to be able to deliver the goals for the customer, for the business. The next event is the system demo. This is where all of the Scrum teams within the Agile release train come together and do a shared demo. That's normally on a sprint by sprint basis. So you're rolling up what would be a Scrum team demo, and it becomes an Agile release train demo where all of the squads are showing all the great work that's coming out of the teams. It's great fun, and it's a great place to drive culture and energy across the teams. And then the last and my favourite of the events within SAFE is Inspect and Adapt. This is the equivalent of a squad retrospective, but it happens at the Agile release train level. The squads will continue with their Scrum behaviour, running sprint retrospectives as they go through it. However, the Agile release train will also undertake a retrospective, and it's a great way for wider, more broad organisational change and improvements to be recognised and pushed out into the business. So for me, they're the three most important events within SAFE that the teams get to join and drive forwards together. So that's kind of SAFE in a nutshell. It's a broad framework that isn't there to really control anything, but it allows the organisation structure to maintain a level of control and sense, whilst allowing the teams to have a level of autonomy working with the product management team. So it's a great way of kind of meshing the broader hybrid working world that we work within when we're trying to work in Agile or Scrum in a more difficult kind of organisational structure. And really, the truth is, SAFE can work when you need alignment across many teams, and that's where it really shines. In contrast, it fails when leaders think that really SAFE is agile but with more control. That just constrains the teams, slows everything down, and just makes it really, really challenging. Additionally, SAFE can become really heavyweight if it's implemented really blindly without the appropriate organisational changes and real true want to change as an organisation to really embed the process and practice. And the truth is, leadership teams can make it very difficult by not being able to let go. And I've seen in multiple organisations, it's so hard for those key decision makers who are 17 layers above the people on the ground doing the actual work. They can't let go. They can't let the teams have the autonomy to deliver what's right for the customer, and they can't take the step back and set the strategy and have the trust that it's the right strategy. And in contrast, SAFE can really shine if it's tailored, if it's simplified, if it's behaviour led, and really if the culture is allowed to grow from the teams upwards and the leadership teams that support them really let go and let the team shine and make sure that each layer is focused on the right team. The portfolio thinking about the long-term strategy, the solution train thinking about feeding the right things into the art team funnels, and then the art teams being allowed to execute without fuss and without challenge and without kind of drama when things move within the plan, because they should. That is autonomy. So, a bit of a shorter one this week. Just wanted to touch on SAFE a little bit, just to give you a bit of a flavour. I'm going to cover a couple of sessions like this that just give us a bit of a flavour of the different frameworks that you can operate within as a project manager or an agile delivery manager or a scrum master, because it's important context in our world of delivery. So that's all for this week. If you got some value out of today's video, consider smashing that like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. I really appreciate it. If you don't agree with me on SAFE, drop me a comment, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Let's please be constructive. If you're going to share a comment saying, it's rubbish, Why don't you add a little bit of meat on the bones? Tell me why you think it's rubbish. How you'd implement something different. What would be the other thing that you'd recommend implementing? I'd love to hear about it, and so would the wider community. Let's continue to grow and learn from each other in our curious mindsets. That's all for this week. I can't wait to see each and every one of you next week. From chaos to clarity, take care.